I've been tracking California's housing market almost every single week for the last 2 years, and I found something that honestly stopped me cold. In one California town, people rebuilt their homes from the ashes of the deadliest wildfire in state history, and now they can't sell them because the insurance renewal costs more than $10,000 a year, if a company will even cover the house at all. And that town is not alone. All over California right now, sellers are slashing prices, some by 15, even 20%, and buyers are still walking away. Why? Because the price was never the real problem. And if you want the truth about where this market is actually headed, not the headlines, the real numbers, do me one favor and hit subscribe. This stuff hits your wallet whether you're watching or not. Number 10. Visalia. We're easing in here, and Visalia is the gentle version of the whole problem. This is a Central Valley town of about 144,000 people. Ag country, affordable by California standards. And in 2025, roughly 1 in 5 listings in Visalia had to cut its price. That's not a crash. That's a market waking up from a dream. For years, Visalia rode a wave of buyers fleeing the coast for cheaper homes, and prices climbed into the mid-300s to low 400,000s. Then mortgage rates jumped past 6-7%, and that marginal buyer, the one who made the whole thing work, just quietly disappeared. Here's what it looks like on the ground. A subdivision built for the 2021 rush, and out front, a price-improved sticker slapped right over the original sign. That word, improved. As if lowering the price were good news for the person who has to do it. Now, I'll be honest with you. Visalia isn't a disaster. Appreciation didn't reverse so much as flatline, and homes are still moving if they're priced right. But that's exactly the point. The seller who lists at last year's peak price sits and waits, and then chases the market down anyway. And you've got to be honest about the trade-offs out here too. The jobs lean heavily on agriculture and the public sector. Summers are punishing. And the air quality in the San Joaquin Valley is some of the worst in the entire country. That's not an opinion, that's the monitoring data. So why start here? Because Visalia is the softest example of a pattern that gets uglier fast. A seller who simply misjudged the moment, priced for a market that had already moved on. No villain, no catastrophe, just a slow realization that the top is behind you. And if this is what mild looks like in California right now, stay with me. Because the next 9 towns each add a new twist, a new reason those price cuts stop working entirely. Number 9 is where the ground gets a little less stable. Number 9, Merced. Merced is a name that should make anyone who lived through 2008 sit up a little. Because this town, about 93,000 people, has one of the wildest boom and bust histories in the whole state. In the last crash, prices here didn't just fall, they collapsed all the way back to late 1990s levels. People lost everything. And now, in 2025, sellers in Merced are cutting prices again, and the folks who remember get a familiar knot in their stomach. Here's why Merced is so fragile. This is an entry-level market. It runs on first-time buyers, agricultural workers, and students tied to UC Merced. There's almost no cushion of wealthy buyers to catch a falling market. So when mortgage rates spiked, and that first-time buyer got priced out of their own monthly payment, demand didn't slow, it fell off a cliff. And the moment the marginal buyer vanishes in a town like this, price cuts follow immediately. There's nothing underneath to hold the floor. Picture a modest stucco tract from the early 2000s, flat farmland stretching out behind it, a for sale sign faded pale from the valley sun, and off in the distance, the university campus glowing, the one big institution this whole town leans on. That image tells you everything. When your local economy rests on a single university and the fields around it, you feel every shift in the national interest rate right in your living room. Now here's my honest take. Merced isn't necessarily a place to run from, it's a place to respect. The volatility here is real, historic, and baked into how the town is built. If you're buying a roller coaster, and you'd better be planning to stay on for the long ride, not hop off in 2 years. And the trade-offs echo Visalia: heat, air quality, an economy leveraged to agriculture, and one campus. What makes Merced land differently than Visalia is the memory. In Visalia, the cuts feel like a market catching its breath. In Merced, they feel like the first notes of a song people have heard before and didn't enjoy the first time. That's the emotional difference, and it matters when you're deciding whether to put your money down. So far, we've stayed in the affordable inland belt, where the story is really about rates and thin buyer pools. Number 8 keeps us in the valley, but the warning sign hiding underneath it is one most sellers never see coming. Number 8, Fresno. Fresno is the biggest inland city we've hit so far, more than 500,000 people, and in 2025, more than 1 in 5 homes here took a price cut. That alone would be worth mentioning. But it's not the cuts that caught my eye. It's what's piling up underneath them. Inventory in Fresno started climbing from 3 directions at once: new construction, ordinary resales, and, quietly, a rising number of foreclosures. That third one is the tell. When foreclosures start creeping back into a market that spent years as a safe, affordable bet, you pay attention. Fresno was supposed to be the sensible choice. The place coastal escapees and first-time buyers landed when the Bay Area or Los Angeles chewed them up. Affordable, steady, no drama. Then 7% mortgage math showed up and erased the one advantage the town had. Here's the ground-level moment I keep picturing. New construction flags snapping in the wind out on the northern edge of the city. Builders waving buyers in with rate buy-downs, knocking the monthly payment down to something people can actually stomach. And then, a few blocks over, a street of ordinary resale homes, reduced signs clustered together, sellers who simply cannot compete with the builder offering incentives they can't match. That's a brutal spot to be in. You cut your price, and the new house down the road still wins because it comes with a cheaper loan attached. My honest read on Fresno: this is the moment a market tips from neutral into a genuine buyer's advantage. If you're buying here, you have leverage you didn't have 2 years ago. You can negotiate, you can ask for concessions, you can walk away and mean it. If you're selling, the hard truth is that price is only half your problem. You're not just competing with your neighbor. You're competing with a brand new home and a financing package you can't offer. And that foreclosure trickle in the background. I don't want to overstate it. It's not 2008, not close. But it's the kind of quiet signal that tells you the easy years here are over. Fresno shows us the first real crack in the just cut the price logic. When the competition is a builder with a rate buy-down, cutting isn't enough. Hold on to that idea, because from here, we leave the valley and head to the coast, where the price drops stop being modest and start getting genuinely steep. Number 7 is where the numbers start to sting. Number 7. Oxnard. Now we hit the coast, and the numbers change character completely. Oxnard, in Ventura County, about 200,000 people, posted a 5.9% year-over-year drop in list prices, one of the 3 steepest declines in the entire state, according to Realtor.com's late 2025 data. And here's the tension that makes Oxnard fascinating. Some measures show the average value barely moving, basically flat, around $760,000. But list prices, those are getting cut hard. Read that together, and you get the real picture. Sellers are slashing aggressively just to keep pace with a market that stalled out under them. Oxnard was always the affordable way into the Ventura County coast. Beach proximity, without the Santa Barbara price tag. But at a median north of $700,000, that word affordable started to fall apart. The math simply broke. And the people caught in the middle are the ones who bought during the low-rate frenzy of 2021 and 2022. A local Douglas Elliman agent put it bluntly: sellers in these pockets are barely breaking even, or taking an outright loss. Let that sit for a second. People who bought the dream at the peak are now selling at a loss on the same coastline they thought could only go up. Picture it. Salt-air stucco homes near the strawberry fields, the marine layer rolling in gray each morning, and a for sale sign that's been out front long enough to start weathering. The seller cuts once. Nothing. Cuts again. Still nothing. Meanwhile, the neighbor's identical listing sits right beside it, both of them waiting on a buyer pool that quietly shrank. Here's my take, and I don't say it to be harsh. Oxnard is the first clean example on this list of the did everything right, still can't win, trap the title promises. These sellers aren't foolish. They bought a coastal home in California, historically one of the safest bets on the planet. They just bought it at the exact wrong moment, and now they're paying for the timing, not the mistake. Realtor.com's own economists frame this plainly. It's a correction. Prices ran too far during the pandemic, and now they're grinding back towards something real. That's not a crash. It's gravity. And gravity doesn't care that you overpaid. So Oxnard shows us steep, verified, coastal price cuts, hitting recent buyers where it hurts. But it's still a market correcting on fundamentals. Number 6 takes that same coastal correction and cranks it up, in a city almost everyone assumed was untouchable. Number 6. San Diego. San Diego. If you'd told me a few years ago that San Diego would post the steepest year-over-year list price decline in California, I'd have raised an eyebrow. But that's exactly what Realtor.com's late 2025 data shows, down 6.7%, the sharpest in the state. And it's not a one-month blip. The Case-Shiller Index recorded roughly 5 straight monthly declines heading into the end of the year. 5 in a row. This is a slow, grinding reversal, not a stumble. Let me give you the arc, because it's stunning. 5 years ago, the typical San Diego home sold for around $630,000. By May of 2025, the median had climbed to nearly $994,000. That's not appreciation, that's a rocket. And then, it hit the ceiling. By that fall, the median had slipped back to around $889,000, and it kept sliding. The market nearly doubled in 5 years, and then simply ran out of buyers who could afford the payment. Here's what that feels like on the ground. Hillside neighborhoods of pastel homes stacked above the freeway, blocks that saw actual bidding wars just 24 months ago. And now, just reduced riders showing up on sign after sign. The energy flipped. The urgency evaporated. Buyers who felt desperate in 2022 are now sitting back, taking their time, letting sellers sweat. And the condo market here is carrying an extra weight I'll come back to later in this list. Rising homeowners association dues and insurance costs that quietly poison a deal from the inside. My honest opinion, San Diego is the clearest proof that no California market is too beautiful, too desirable, or too everyone wants to live here to correct. Coastal markets that climb the fastest tend to fall the hardest when the tide goes out, because there's more air underneath them. And locals know it. Go read the San Diego forums, and you'll find people openly arguing about how deep this goes. That said, I'm not calling a collapse. A market coming off a near doubling has a lot of room to soften without cratering. But if you bought at that 2025 peak, you're watching the floor move under your feet in real time, and that's a genuinely unsettling place to be. So that's the coastal correction at full strength, a former can't-lose city printing 5 straight months of declines. From here, the reasons behind the price cuts stop being about simple correction. They start getting structural, and that's exactly where this turns. Quick thing before we keep going, because it matters. Everything up to now has basically been about rates and overpriced pandemic homes. But the next 5 towns are different. The reasons those price cuts fail get darker, and the number one genuinely rattled me when I read it. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the moment. You'll want to see how this ends. Number 5. Stockton. Stockton earns its spot with a single brutal number. In 2025, this city led all of California for price cuts. More than 1 in 4 listings, over 25%, had to drop the asking price. The highest reduction rate in the entire state. And there's a bitter irony baked into that, because Stockton is a city that famously declared bankruptcy just over a decade ago. It clawed its way back, and now it's leading California in price-reduced signs all over again. About 323,000 people live here, and the median sits somewhere in the affordable inland band. Sources put it anywhere from the low 400s to the mid 500,000s, and that spread itself tells you how choppy this market is. Some zip codes are down around 7% year over year. But the number that matters is that 1 in 4 cut rate, because it screams that sellers are chasing a buyer who keeps stepping backward. Here's the engine underneath Stockton, and it's specific. This city ran for years as the Bay Area's affordability release valve. Priced out of Oakland or San Jose, you drove 60, 90 minutes each way and bought a house you could actually afford in Stockton. That commuter lifeline was everything. Then 2 things happened at once. Rates spiked, and remote work flexibility started getting clawed back as companies pulled people back to the office. Suddenly that long commute got a lot less appealing, and the flippers who'd been churning Stockton homes for profit pulled back too. When the commuter buyer and the investor step out of the room at the same time, the floor drops fast. Picture grid streets of aging ranch homes and early 2000s tracks, a cluster of reduced signs on a commuter belt cul-de-sac facing the Altamont Pass, the road thousands used to drive into the bay every single morning. Now here's where I have to be straight with you about trade-offs, because trust matters. Stockton carries real baggage, a tough crime reputation, and a bankruptcy stigma that still shapes how outside buyers see it, fairly or not. That perception is part of why cutting the price alone doesn't fix things here. My take? Stockton is the affordable tier version of the whole video's thesis. The sharpest cuts in the state, and buyers still hesitating. Because when the reason people came here in the first place erodes, no discount fully replaces it. And that idea, that a discount can't fix a broken reason to buy, is about to get a lot more literal. Number 4 is a big city value reset almost nobody saw coming. Number 4. Oakland. Oakland genuinely surprised me, and I don't say that lightly. Because Oakland didn't just decline. At one point in 2025, It posted the single steepest home price drop of any major metro in the entire country. Redfin clocked it at 6.8% year-over-year, the biggest fall among the 50 most populous metros in America. And Zillow's data, adjusted for inflation, showed Oakland values down around 11% over the year. 11% in one of the marquee cities of the Bay Area. Let that sink in. But the number that really got me came off the local forums, where buyers were reporting 3-bedroom homes listed in the $500,000 to $700,000 range, going for 20, even 25% under what sellers expected. That's not a polite little discount. That's the market looking a seller in the eye and repricing their entire mental math. Everything they thought their home was worth, gone, overnight. So what hit Oakland so hard? A triple punch. The tech world's remote work reversal, Bay Area residents leaving the state entirely, and buyers who flatly refuse to overpay anymore. And here's the migration number that frames all of it. California lost a net of roughly 216,000 residents to other states in a single year, 2024 into 2025. When people leave a high-cost metro faster than they arrive, and the buyers who stay have gone cold, prices don't just soften, they reset. Picture craftsman bungalows and hillside homes with fresh, reduced riders out front. Bay Bridge views from a living room window in a house that sat through 3 open houses without a single serious offer. Sellers here still carry the old Bay Area instinct. List high, like your neighbor did, because it always worked before. And Northern California agents say that instinct is dying hard. It collides head-on with a buyer who simply will not bite. My honest opinion, Oakland is the most important town on this list, for one reason. This is not a rural niche or an insurance oddity. This is a major American city going through a real, measurable value reset. The kind people assume only happens to small towns. If it can happen here, it can happen in a lot more places than most homeowners want to admit. And I think that's the quiet warning underneath the whole Bay Area right now. So Oakland gives us the big city reset. Number 3 takes us somewhere completely different. To the desert, where the drops get even steeper. And a second hidden cost is quietly killing deals that look great on paper. Number 3. Palm Springs. Welcome to the desert, where the numbers get genuinely dramatic. In the Coachella Valley, the average-sized detached home in Palm Springs fell 14.6% year-over-year, according to the April 2026 Desert Housing Report. From about $1.3 million down to roughly $1.13 million in a single year. And just up the road in Desert Hot Springs, the average attached home, the condos and townhomes, dropped a staggering 21%. That's not a correction. That's the floor giving way in specific pockets. And the whole valley has tipped supply-heavy, with the market watchers out there openly warning that supply is starting to exceed demand across almost every price range. Homes that used to sell above asking now sell at a discount to list. But here's the part that makes Palm Springs so instructive, and it's the whole reason it sits at number 3. It's the first town on this list where the price cut isn't the real killer. The carrying cost is. This valley boomed on pandemic second home buyers and short-term rental investors, people buying condos to rent out to weekenders. Then the rules changed. Cities cracked down on short-term rentals. Homeowners association dues climbed. Insurance costs climbed. And suddenly a condo that looks cheap on the listing comes with a monthly obligation that never stops. Here's the trap in one image. A gorgeous mid-century condo, palm trees out front, a community pool nobody's swimming in. The seller lists it, cuts the price, cuts it again, and the buyer sits down, does the math on doubled association dues plus tightening rental restrictions plus insurance, and simply says no. The seller lowered the price. But they could not lower the carrying cost. And that's the thing a listing photo never shows you. My take, and if it were my money, I'd take this seriously. Never, ever judge a desert condo by its sticker price alone. That number is the smallest commitment you'll make. The dues, the insurance, the rules about whether you can even rent it out. That's the real price. And it's the part quietly gutting this market from the inside. There's brutal heat to factor in too, and an economy leaning hard on tourism and second homes, which makes the whole place sensitive when the discretionary buyer disappears. So Palm Springs shows us the moment the price stops being the point, when the ongoing cost is what scares buyers off. Hold that thought tight, because number 2 takes that exact idea and makes it almost unbelievable. A place where the homes are genuinely cheap, and they still won't sell. Number 2, Clearlake. This is where the whole story turns on its head, because everything so far has been, at some level, about prices being too high. Clearlake flips that completely. In Clearlake, up in Lake County, The median home price sits around $249,000. Let me put that in perspective. That's less than what a two-car garage costs in parts of Los Angeles. A whole house, in California, for under $250,000. And here's the gut punch. It still won't sell. Because the thing standing between a buyer and the keys isn't the price. It's the insurance. Lake County has been hammered by wildfire. Roughly 2/3 of the entire county's land has burned since 2015. 2/3. And insurers have responded exactly how you'd expect. Median premiums jumped around 86% in a decade, the fastest rise anywhere in the whole North Bay region, and that's just the median. In the high-risk zones, on the state's FAIR plan, the insurer of last resort, premiums run far higher. Cancellations are climbing faster here than almost anywhere in the state. So picture it. A modest house on the shore of Clear Lake, water shimmering out front, and burn-scarred hills rising up right behind it. The price is a dream, and the buyer walks, because they can't get a policy, or the only policy they can get costs more than the mortgage would. A cheap house is worthless if you can't insure it, and you can't finance it without insurance. The two are locked together. Here's the human cost that stuck with me. The people hit hardest here are lower income and rural, folks for whom this town was the last affordable foothold in an impossibly expensive state. And some of them are now choosing to go without any coverage at all. Food on the table versus a premium they can't afford. That's the actual decision people are making in Lake County right now. And the research backs the pattern cold. In the riskiest zip codes in the country, rising premiums have wiped out around $44,000 in home value growth on average. Insurance isn't a side detail anymore. It's the market. My honest take? Clear Lake is the clearest proof in this entire video that affordability alone means nothing now. You can win on price and still lose the deal, because the risk got priced in somewhere the seller can't touch. And if that's what's happening to the cheapest homes in California, imagine what it's doing to a town that already burned to the ground once. That's number one. And it's the one I can't stop thinking about. Number 1. Paradise. Paradise. Even the name lands differently now. If you don't know the story, on November 8, 2018, the Camp Fire tore through this town in Butte County and became the deadliest, most destructive wildfire in California history. Before that morning, around 26,000 people lived here. By that afternoon, most of the town was gone. Homes, businesses, streets, lives, gone. And what happened next is genuinely one of the most human things I've come across doing this. People came back. They rebuilt. On the same ground, on the ashes of the homes they'd lost, survivors put up new houses, board by board. The population has clawed back to somewhere around 9 or 10,000. That's not a statistic. That's stubborn, defiant hope. People refusing to let a fire have the last word on where they belong. And here's the part that breaks my heart a little. They're being forced out again. Not by fire this time. By the bill that comes after it. Home prices in Paradise fell around 10% year over year, heading into late 2025. But the price is barely the story. Residents are reporting insurance renewal quotes that hit $10,000 a year, or more. And for some, no company will write a policy at all. Think about who that hits. A retiree who paid off their home decades ago, watched it burn in 2018, rebuilt it with their own insurance settlement and their own hands, and now can't afford the premium to keep it. And can't sell it either, because the buyer can't get coverage to close. They are trapped inside the very house they fought to bring back, priced out of their own resurrection. And the numbers around it are staggering. Statewide, wildfire has driven the average home insurance premium up around 84% in just 5 years, according to Stanford researchers. And when disaster strikes, studies have found that roughly 77% of insurance payouts fall short of what it actually costs to rebuild. So even the people who had insurance often came up tens of thousands short. Here's the driving force in one honest sentence. Once a town has burned, the insurance industry never forgets it. As one advocate put it, once you've been through a fire, you're in the bullseye. The insurers remember the red ink. And Paradise, of all places, is branded forever in those risk models. Picture the visual, because it says everything. Brand new stucco homes standing on lots, still ringed by the blackened, dead trunks of the trees that burned. A for sale sign in front of a house that's barely a year old. And on either side, empty concrete pads. The foundations of homes that were never rebuilt. Blocks where a single new house stands alone in a neighborhood of ghosts. Now, I want to be fair, because there's a flicker of light here. As of early 2026, a few carriers have cautiously started writing policies again on well-built homes in Paradise. It's a start. But the trauma and the cost hang over the whole town like smoke that won't clear. My honest final take? Paradise is the ultimate version of everything this video is about. A place where the seller does everything right, rebuilds from nothing, prices the home fairly, cuts it when they have to, and still can't win, because the enemy was never the price. It was the risk, sitting in an insurance actuary's spreadsheet 1,000 miles away. And that's the quiet truth about California's housing market in 2026. In more and more places, the deal killer isn't what the house costs, it's what it costs to protect it.